I did not expect for it to blow up as fast as it did. If anything, it was like, I'm a salesperson like anyone else, right? I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm like, we'll figure it out, no problem. And then when we started getting into all the different states, with all of their foreclosure laws and the way they close, it was a very humbling experience. Like, okay, we can't go into this state because of this. We can't do this because of this. And so we've really narrowed it down. We have the ability to do it on 50 states. It just doesn't make sense because it takes us away from our process. Like, for example, like we're not in New York anymore because it's a heavy attorney state.
Yes.
And, not to go on a soapbox, the attorneys overcomplicate everything.
Totally.
And so it was making our job 10 times harder because we're asking for a contract and they're sending us a letter of intent. And we're like, come on, seriously. So the back and forth is what we're trying to cut out. And really just stick to how can we continue to streamline so that we don't take away from our process. And so that's kind of what we've done. It has definitely been a journey. When you expand, you deal with so much, especially trying to establish relationships with, other people in different markets to get feet on the ground and, boots on the ground and things like that.
So you deal with your business actually somewhat similar to mine, believe it or not. So I buy all over the countries. I bought in 44 out of 50 states. And like you, certain states are more lucrative and some are a real pain in the butt. And I've X'd New York off my state list.
You too.
Yes, so totally off. They're too much of a pain. It is so difficult with the attorneys. It's so difficult to set up a closing. It takes so many months. It's just a nightmare to deal with them. If they just had a traditional title company, it would be so much easier to go through them. Or if they were like the attorneys in the Carolinas, which are much easier to deal with and much quicker, it would be so much better.
Well, kudos to them for making themselves relevant in a state.
Yeah.
Whatever.
In a wrong way, right?
Right. Exactly.
So next question is on your teams. This has me totally fascinated. So how many people on your team and what are their different roles that they play on your team?
Yeah, so we have 11 people. Stephanie is our operations manager. So she oversees negotiations and she helps set up our systems. And I mean, she's really like the organized, I'm the chaos and she's like, how can I put this together so that this makes sense, right? I'm like the visionary, like, hey, let's do this. And she's like, okay, let's put it on paper. And then we have Selena, who is, if you guys refer something over, you'll be talking to her. She's the one that takes in all of like the new leads that come in, a lot of the calls that come into like the main office line. And she's really working with our clients to pre-qualify them before she sends them over to assigns a negotiator. We have a transaction coordinator that helps us stay compliant, right, with all of our forms and paperwork and things like that. And then we have virtual assistants, and so the virtual assistants are assigned to certain files where they literally call just to say, hey, did you get our paperwork? Hey, did you get that email? Hey, I mean, they don't do any negotiations.
The follow-ups.
Yes. Yeah. And so they're the ones and this is one of the key things in our process is that they're the ones on hold with Wells Fargo for an hour and a half just to make sure they got the paperwork. Right. And you said you negotiate a couple, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
So it helps because, it's such a blessing, relationships and our culture is everything, right? It's really them being able to buy into the vision of what we're trying to do is the only way that this works, especially with this type of job. Right. Yeah. It's not like a normal job. You deal with really crappy clients, ungrateful, delusional, and then you deal with a bank that's very difficult. And it's not all bad. I mean, it's very rewarding, but you have to have thick skin, right? And you have to have a passion for it in order to continue to do it day in and day out. And so what's great about our VAs, they've been with us for so long, about 5 or 6 years, that they're so well trained in asking the right questions. And that way it takes that burden off the negotiator so that they can actually spend time doing the important things to get things moving to closing, which is how we're able to close things in 2 to 3 months when the industry standard is a year plus for short sales.
How quickly do you get them done? How many months?
2 to 3 months.
Wow, that is fast. That is lightning quick. That is awesome. But that's what happens when you have systems and processes set up for it. So
absolutely.
I remember the first thing I had to do when I was speaking with somebody to find out, we'd have to get an authorization, release information get information about the mortgage, right? And then find out, people don't realize how paperwork intensive this is because you have to get all the financials from the basically the mortgage holder here and send all those in, right? Pay stubs, all these kind of things. I mean, Just walk us through that process, because I know that's a whole process in and of itself and how long that takes.